What are the challenges with green energy? Does the industry have an image problem? What role does hydrogen play in a cleaner tomorrow? Welcome to The Challenge with Green Energy, the podcast tackling the tough questions with the green energy revolution. I'm your host, Lizzie Simon, and in each episode, we will be speaking to experts, leaders, and key voices in the industry to uncover the challenges, breakthroughs, and image issues, and the untold stories that are powering a cleaner, brighter tomorrow. So, what is the challenge with green energy? Let's find out. So in this episode, we're going to be speaking to Paul Meersman. Paul is the Global Head of Marketing and Communications at Triton Hydrogen, which is a leading innovator in hydrogen technology. So the business was established in May 2022, and it focuses on nanotechnology solutions to revolutionize hydrogen storage and transportation. So currently the company is working on deploying its flagship products, Tritonex and Tritonor, which address the critical issues of hydrogen leakage and material embrittlement to improve safety, efficiency, and sustainability across the energy infrastructure. So it's so exciting to have you in, Paul. Thank you for being a guest on The Challenge with Green Energy.
Thank you so much, Lizzie, for that introduction. You've stolen some of the things I was going to talk about, but that's fine. We can go into a bit more depth. I'm very much looking forward to chatting with you and sharing a few stories and insights with our listeners.
Absolutely. And yeah, I feel like there's going to be so much to talk about. It's such an exciting business that obviously you've spoken to me about previous to this recording. And also on a more personal note, after having spoken to you, it does also seem that you are very passionate about raising awareness on what we need to be doing as individuals, as businesses, and as society to move towards net zero, and also on the urgency of climate change. So I am really excited to hear your story. And I think before we get into more details about Triton Hydrogen and the mission of your business, I think it will be really good to understand how your career has progressed into what it is today.
Yes, certainly. I mean, actually, my journey into green energy has been quite recent. It follows an enriching and fulfilling 24 years in a large digital and communications agency, where I had the privilege to see a myriad of solutions for communicating and marketing. That exposure was invaluable as my work encompassed everything from strategy to marketing technology, behavioral science, data, and AI, where I took the lead in the agency on launching the AI initiative. So as head of marketing at the agency, I spearheaded numerous projects and collaborated with some of the most brilliant and leading subject matter experts, gaining a broad base of experience, which I hope is going to stand me in good stead in my green journey. Throughout my career at the agency, I marketed a wide range of solutions and developed a deep understanding of customer behaviors and requirements across various sectors, including the public sector and large enterprises. My work touched nearly every aspect of marketing and communications, providing me with a robust foundation. One aspect I particularly cherished about the agency was our commitment to delivering solutions that positively impacted the people of the UK. I've always held the mantra of wanting to do work that matters for people who care, and this ethos is at the core of my efforts. However, my journey with the agency came to an end in October 2023. I stood at the crossroads, deciding what challenge to take on next. Within 2 weeks of leaving the agency, an exciting new opportunity arose, and I joined Triton Hydrogen in mid-October 2023 as the Global Head of Marketing and Communications, and spearheaded their first real marketing push. This role has been incredibly rewarding, as it allows me to contribute to tackling one of the most vital challenges of our time, climate change. Just what I wanted to do. At Triton Hydrogen, I joined a group of entrepreneurs and a team comprising of the brightest minds in material science, electrochemistry, and nanotechnology, who were uniquely positioned to take on the daunting task of creating a hydrogen barrier. So, Lizzie, why do we need a hydrogen barrier? It's because hydrogen is one of the most elusive elements in the world. It is very difficult to contain. I know many of your listeners will be aware of this, some may not be so aware of it. But the containment issue represents a real problem for adopting hydrogen as an energy source. Currently, it is managed, but as we start to use more hydrogen, the problems will grow, just keep on growing exponentially. For example, one of the current strategies for green hydrogen is to have renewable power as close as possible to production and offtake, reducing hydrogen storage and transport issues. We've solved that problem, enabling global, scalable, and safe hydrogen storage and transport. It's so exciting. You may be curious now about the story of how we came to that solution. The story begins with Triton Norway, our R&D company, led by our visionary CEO, Henning Saversen, who set about solving this problem. And after 5 years of intense research and development, they succeeded. Triton Hydrogen is now the commercial wing, and that's bringing our solution, the Tritonex hydrogen barrier coating system, to the market. And we're engaging with global enterprises, governments, and academics who are incredibly excited about our game-changing technology. As I've mentioned to you prior to this podcast, my diary's filled up with global appointments, and I live with the Apple World Calendar next to me all the time, trying to figure out when and how I can communicate with various people. Our mission is to make a substantial impact in the fight against climate change, and being part of this journey aligns perfectly with my long-held passion for doing meaningful work that has a positive impact. So I've talked for a bit now.
No, it's great. And I think, after having spoken to you, it does very much so feel like almost one of the unspoken huge challenges that there is for the kind of global adoption of hydrogen, which is leakage. And, I think when we talk about how amazing hydrogen is, we talk about when it's combusted, all it releases is water vapor. But what about if hydrogen gas is released into the atmosphere prior to that? So I think it would be good to kind of get your understanding on what is the impact of hydrogen leakage into the atmosphere.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, the way I see it, there are three real key challenges. Leakage is one, and often these challenges, by the way, are not spoken about so openly because there is a movement to just push forward with hydrogen and not talk about the problems, which is quite normal when you're pushing for a new energy solution to be adopted in the market. And I'll talk a bit more about that attitude to adoption later, I think. So the three challenges are, the main one, I think the main dangerous one, is hydrogen embrittlement. I'll come on to leakage after that. Hydrogen embrittlement presents a critical challenge in the utilization of hydrogen, particularly in the realm of material science. This phenomenon occurs when hydrogen atoms infiltrate metals like steel, reducing their toughness and ductility, which leads to premature structural failure. Now, our brilliant operations director, Phil Downs, explained this problem to me using a credit card. And I think it's a great sort of visualization. If you take a credit card, you can flex it up and down, and it won't break, nothing happens. But if you flex it to a certain point and you keep doing that a bit further, what happens is eventually it cracks, right? So you can either crack it by just doing it viciously in one go or going up and down several times. That sort of level of tolerance is similar to what happens when material gets embrittled. But if you're using natural gas and you've got more tolerance, bending it up and down, than when you start putting hydrogen through a pipeline or into a storage vessel, that tolerance diminishes dramatically. That's the difference. So you can't treat hydrogen like you would treat a normal natural gas or anything like that, or other gases, because it's going to cause those structures to fail far sooner. The key thing is that embrittlement initiates the moment hydrogen comes into contact with susceptible materials. So that significantly compromises the integrity of infrastructure designed for hydrogen storage and transportation.
So if hydrogen gas was to be put in to a traditional pipeline that we currently have within the UK, say, would that always happen? Does there something need to be done to the pipelines that are currently there? Otherwise, that process of embrittlement will happen.
Absolutely. Embrittlement will definitely happen. And whereas your pipelines previously might have lasted, I don't know what the exact figure is, but say 30 years or 50 years, that pipeline might be fine before that section needs to be replaced. Now it'll be probably less than half that time. These things are hard to measure, but what we do know from examples of where embrittlement has occurred is that structural failure will be far, far sooner than it would with other natural gases going through there.
Yeah, and surely it would also cost a lot to have this kind of problem happening with all kind of pipeline infrastructure.
Absolutely. The economic implications are substantial for unprotected infrastructure that faces accelerated degradation. It also increases your maintenance costs, your replacement costs. And if you try and combat the embrittlement by using different specialist steels, you're also driving up costs. So one of the ways traditionally that companies combat embrittlement is to use thicker steel. That means bigger welds, more chance of the welds failing, means bigger sections of pipeline being used. If you then want to go and transport new sections of pipeline out into, the desert or wherever you're going to, or undersea or whatever you're going to use, your transport costs go up because the steel is heavier. You can get less on a truck. It just impacts across the entire life cycle of what you're trying to do with hydrogen. So, we need to develop solutions that mitigate hydrogen embrittlement, and that's absolutely paramount for the long-term viability and safety of hydrogen-based technologies.
And then, so obviously, Triton Hydrogen, you have created two products that you can claim are 100% impermeable. So I think it'd be really good to understand a little bit more about that, because I feel like, if ever you have anything on a packet, like spray in the kitchen, it will always say does 99%. So the fact that you've been able to say that you have created a product that can create 100% impermeable surfaces is pretty impressive. So yeah, it'd be good to understand what the product is and how you've been able to achieve that.
Sure, absolutely. I just have to correct you. It's not two products that are hydrogen impermeable. Tritonor is our coating, like a paint coating that goes over any steel or surface, and it protects against corrosion. So it withstands all forms of corrosion, salt water, anything that corrosive that it comes into contact with. Tritonex goes up another level and adds in the ability to stop and block hydrogen permeation completely. So that's the difference between the two products. But Lizzie, perhaps we can just go back. I was on this train of three different major problems and want to go back now to your previous question where you talked about the environmental challenges through hydrogen leaking into the atmosphere. There's been a really interesting study by Ocko and Hamburg. They studied hydrogen emissions and found that they've got a significant warming effect on the climate. The research indicates that over a 10-year period, the warming impact of hydrogen can be 60 times greater than that of an equivalent amount of carbon dioxide. I'm sure not many of your listeners are aware of that. Hydrogen in the atmosphere exacerbates the effects of other greenhouse gases, particularly methane. So basically, all that leaked hydrogen out there is really not good for the environment. Clearly, it's a problem that we need to address. And then the other one is the cost of leakage as well. So that's the third problem that we've got. The International Energy Agency's Global Hydrogen Review highlighted the significant financial impact of hydrogen leakage. So by examining the data with the average cost of hydrogen, which I pegged at $4.8 per kilogram, it can be much more, can be much less, but I've tried to take an average there, an optimistic average. It becomes evident that curbing hydrogen leakage can lead to substantial economic benefits. If you think hydrogen is leaking from the moment you've produced it, part of your product is just evaporating. So instead of 100% of your product being delivered, you're only delivering 80%, or 85%. That's a real problem when you're spending so much on manufacturing hydrogen. In the manufacturing sector, the leakage rate is about 3%, according to the reports that I've read. And that equates then, using that average figure of $4.8 per kilogram, that equates to a loss of 2.85 million tons of hydrogen in 2023, which is, $13.68 billion lost. The situation is even more pronounced in the storage sector, where the current thinking is that there's about 6% leakage rate. And that's a total of 5.7 million tons that's lost and $28 billion. So as hydrogen production and usage ramps up in the coming decades, this problem and these numbers are just going to skyrocket. So that's where, going back now again to your question about Triton Hydrogen, that's where we come in. So fortunately, Triton Hydrogen, we've cracked that century-old problem by creating a nanotechnology marvel, the Tritonex hydrogen barrier coating system, which you mentioned earlier. It's ISO 17081 certified to completely stop hydrogen permeation. The coating sits between the storage vessel or pipeline and the hydrogen, blocking it 100%. So as a result, the hydrogen cannot leak, cannot sweat through, it cannot permeate or cause embrittlement. It's the only barrier of its kind in the world. So we've looked at the market out there. We've looked at all the other solutions. And I don't have a graphic to show you here, but I can share it at a later point. But there's a graph where we've looked at all of the other ones on a logarithmic scale, and there's nothing that comes close to us. In fact, the regulations haven't even caught up with the idea of a barrier being 100%. All the regulations are about mitigation of a certain amount of leakage. It's the only barrier of its kind in the world. It's a complete game changer. And Tritonex will allow for versatile, safe, and easy hydrogen storage and transportation so that we can treat it much like we treat traditional fuels. So it's more than an advancement. It's a transformation in how we manage hydrogen.
Absolutely. And it kind of makes you think, what is the catch? Because it just seems like you've created a product that, is perfect and ready to go. So why have we not seen it sooner?
Brilliant question. Okay. So I have conversations with engineers all over the world in very, very large organizations, the leading car manufacturers, aerospace companies, component manufacturers, electrolysis people. And the reaction from the engineers, and these are the guys on the front line who need to solve the problems, is jaws drop. And as is the nature of engineering, they are cynical. This can't be. We've never seen, this is a problem that people have spent billions on trying to solve. Big universities have been trying to solve this. It's like, we can't believe this. So our strategy has then been to advocate testing with the organizations. So we're in the process now of running tests with various global organizations using our Tritonex as a barrier. And the use cases are so diverse. Electrolysis people have got a completely different problem to a pipeline company that wants to lay hundreds of miles of pipeline. They've got different use cases, different circumstances, different temperatures, different pressures. All of these issues and challenges need to be proven that the technology can work. So we are in that stage now. And there are people who are buying our product and using it for these tests. And out of that, we are simulating data. So we've got an agreement when we're running tests that we will get data from these tests. And we're going to have a really good repository of data on so many different use cases. And also the other thing to say is that we're not just a manufacturer. We're a group of these scientists and real problem solvers in our organization. So whenever there's a use case that throws a curveball at us, we can work with that organization to solve those issues and solve those problems and develop a particular variant that will suit what they are trying to do. And it's super exciting because I absolutely love all this problem solving and figuring things out. And we're going to get there. Absolutely 100% we're getting there. We've cracked the big problem. And the big problem is, can you stop hydrogen completely from going into the coating, not even touching the steel? Yes, we've solved that problem. The next is, how do we apply it? How does it work in different use cases, in different temperatures and all that sort of thing?
And it does seem like your business is just full of all these kind of mad scientists coming up and innovating, and it is incredible. And just, I guess, as a little bit of a follow-up of what you said just before, one of our previous guests expressed his feelings on how there is a lack of investment within the country for innovation and for businesses. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. Obviously, you are a business that very much so puts innovation and technology at the heart. I just wanted to get your kind of thoughts on that.
I've spoken to lots of entrepreneurs, and we've also become a bit of a magnet for attracting other companies that are in a similar situation to us and sharing ideas. We're kind of brothers in arms. And the thing that comes out from everybody is it is incredibly hard to get your innovation through, no matter how good it is. It's an absolute no-brainer. Tritonex is an absolute no-brainer to anybody in the industry. But it is still very hard. And to get funding is very difficult. There's quite a few reasons for that. There's risk aversion. We've come through a very difficult economic time. VC funders have not been so open to funding. AI is attracting a lot of attention because that's seen as an enormous growth thing. So engineering, slightly less sexy than digital solutions, but just purely, the support for innovators, they have to jump through so many hoops to just get to a stage where they're in front of the right people. Luckily, there are a number of organizations that are into climate change, into investing in green solutions and green tech, and we're speaking to a lot of them. And we've got a very big American investor who's really seriously, we're at very advanced stages with them. So that's all good. I mean, I'm happy with where we are. I think our company is really happy with where we are. Having said that, if any investors are listening, please do get in touch. We're always interested, because the more investment we get, the faster our company will grow. We've got a global market to attack, so we absolutely going to need various rounds of funding as we grow. But yeah, it's sad. I think I've seen some information out there, and I've seen some stories out there saying, the UK is very well positioned to take a lead in hydrogen and in green technology if the support is there for the innovators. So that is the plea, really, I think. Break down those walls, break down those barriers. Let's have conversations.
And then if investment can go into businesses that are actually kind of doing the right thing and putting climate change at the heart of everything they do, because on the flip side, you will get businesses that will potentially be muddying the water for investment, and you kind of get into the realms of greenwashing as well. And that is also another huge challenge that we are facing within the green sector, of those other organizations that are kind of conflicting with those that are actually trying to do something good.
Yeah, well, there will always be that element, and hopefully the cream will rise to the top.
So something else that we do in this podcast is a little bit of a game to try and myth bust of commonly misunderstood concepts within the green energy sector. So we have a small game of facts and fiction. So what I'll be doing is I'll be saying a statement to Paul, and he will tell me if he thinks the statement is fact or fiction. And then we will talk about it a little bit more. So are you ready for the statement, Paul?
Go easy on me, Lizzie. I'm new to the green sector.
It's a lot on the line here. So your statement is: hydrogen gas leaks faster from pipes than natural gas. Is it fact or fiction?
Fact.
You're completely right. So I think maybe before I read kind of what the answer is, or to explain it a bit more, do you think you could have a go at explaining why that is the case, being the expert?
As I've covered the whole issue of permeation and leakage. So leakage can occur in various ways. It can leak through joints, welds, the gaskets. Those are particular vulnerabilities for leakage. And leakage of natural gas occurs, as we know. That is a real challenge. But the difference with hydrogen is that the hydrogen molecules are so small that they can actually leak right through solid materials like steel. It's been described to me in various ways by different engineers. Permeation is probably the official title. It permeates through the steel. Sweating has also been used as an expression of how it gets through. It sweats through the material. So I think when you're looking at, say, at hundreds of kilometers of pipeline, all of that exposed surface to the atmosphere across the desert, say in India, we're looking at a use case in India, so that springs to mind, where they want to build, really, really long pipelines. If you think of all that exposed surface letting hydrogen out, bad for the climate, as I mentioned earlier, something really does need to be done about that. And it's far worse than natural gas.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you're completely right. And I actually only recently learned that the hydrogen molecule actually moves through the metal. Like I just find that quite a crazy concept to get my head around. So it really does show how important it is that we do something about it. But yeah, just to add in a little bit, although Paul, you've given a perfect answer anyway. So research indicates that hydrogen can leak from pipes at a rate that's approximately 3 times higher than that of natural gas due to its small size, small molecular size, and higher diffusivity rate as well. So you've already answered that. So yeah, thank you for that.
I didn't know the 3 times higher. That's a really interesting one. Can I use that one in my marketing materials? That's good.
More than welcome. Okay, so following on from our business's motto to connect the supply, something that we also do in this podcast is we invite each guest to pose a question for the next participant and then to also answer one from the previous guest. So the question that you've been asked, Paul, is how can you ensure that we support workforce diversity in the green and hydrogen industry?
Quite simply, by attracting more diverse people to the industry. And I think that, starts with education at school and progresses from there. We just absolutely need to make it more interesting for people to take part in. And I think we need to address the industry's image problem as well. The green energy industry has an image problem, and we need to address that to make it more attractive for a really diverse audience. So, and it's similar. We need lots of engineers in hydrogen. And if you look at the universities, yes, there's more diversity there, but it's still not enough in balance, I don't think. So, yeah, that would be my answer to that one.
Yeah. So you think going into schools and talking to people about all of the different careers that are available?
Absolutely. That would certainly help. Offering the right package to people, offering the right incentives to people. Those are the things that we need to do really to attract a more diverse audience. I think engineering is, digital is seen as very sexy and interesting, and AI is seen as really interesting, but none of that can exist without us having the energy to power our computers, to live our lives, to be able to travel, to be able to transport food around the world. All of those things need to be solved by engineers and manufacturers, the physical things that we actually need. So it's fundamental. And I've grown in appreciation for what engineers do, coming in from a very digital marketing, cerebral kind of environment, solving those problems to the real world problems of making things actually work. That's so exciting for me. And I think we need to attract more people to try to solve the problems of how do we make things work better.
Yeah. And I think there does need to be that education piece to also just show the extent of what different careers are out there. Because I think for most people, people don't actually realise all of the different pathways, all of the different sectors that are going to be impacted by hydrogen and by green energy in general. So I do think there needs to be more work done in that kind of skills pathway and career pathway. So then that will then trickle down, and obviously for those in school, but also for people within the changing industry to have that understanding.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, well, that has brought us to the end of the episode. So I hope you enjoyed it, Paul. It was fantastic having you in, and obviously hearing about the amazing work that Triton Hydrogen have achieved and what the plans are for the future. So yeah, it's been brilliant having you in, and thank you so much.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, Lizzie. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much for listening to The Challenge with Green Energy, brought to you by Hydrogen Safe. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, like, and leave a review. Every time you do, it helps us to promote our podcasts and increases the chances of others finding the show too. For further details on Hydrogen Safe and how we are connecting the supply between businesses, individuals, and educators through our specialist hydrogen safety training, then head over to hydrogensafe.org and subscribe to our newsletter. See you next time.